From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Tisha Bader.
I'm Tisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Thursday, June the 28th, 2018. We open with 3 infiltration attempts into Israel from Gaza in 24 hours. Overnight last night, the IDF said it identified 2 Palestinian terrorists who were crawling towards the Gaza security fence in an attempt to cross it into Israeli territory. In response, the troops fired towards them with an IDF tank, critically injuring one of them who later died. Molotov cocktails were also found at the scene, presumably belonging to the terrorists. Yesterday, 2 attempted border breaches were prevented by the IDF. Israeli troops shot at a group of Palestinians trying to break through the fence in the northern Gaza Strip. 5 of them were injured. Another attempt was reported in the eastern part of the Strip. 1 teenage Palestinian was injured there and taken to an Israeli hospital for treatment. The United Nations took a stand this week against the use of civilians as human shields. The UN General Assembly adopted an update to its global counterterrorism strategy on Tuesday to include a paragraph condemning the use of human shields by terrorist organizations like Hamas, to whom the statement was said to be specifically directed. Hamas has used this practice for years in Gaza, most recently using civilians, including children, at the Gaza fence as cover. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, praised the UN action as an important step in changing the rules of the game at the UN. Prince William visited Jerusalem's Old City today, the final day of his 3-day trip to Israel and the West Bank. The prince was at the Western Wall, accompanied by the wall's Rabbi Shmuel Rabinovich. He signed the guest book at the holy site, writing, "May the God of peace bless this region and all the world with peace." Chief Rabbi of Great Britain, Ephraim Mervis, was also with the prince and said, "Today we experienced a moment of history which will live long in the memory of Jews around the world." He said the Western Wall stands at the epicenter of our faith. To see the future monarch come to pay his respects was a remarkable gesture of friendship and a sign of the Duke's regard for the sanctity of Jerusalem. Prince William also visited the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and the Temple Mount and was allowed to enter the Dome of the Rock, known to Muslims as Al-Aqsa. Earlier today, the prince visited the final resting place of his great-grandmother, Princess Alice of Battenberg. Princess Alice saved a Jewish family during the Holocaust. She died in 1969, and her remains were interred at the Church of Mary Magdalene on the Mount of Olives, as she had wished. Prince William flew back to Britain this afternoon. The Israeli-American teenager responsible for a wave of bomb threats at Jewish institutions in the U.S. last year was convicted today in Israel, where he lives. The Tel Aviv District Court convicted the 19-year-old, whose name still remains under a gag order, though it has been published, of multiple counts of extortion. He admitted to making some 2,000 fake bomb threats against various Jewish institutions, many of them, if you recall, against Jewish community centers, which caused panic and fear between January and March of last year, as well as threats made to hospitals, airlines, malls, and other locations outside of the U.S. and Canada, the U.K., New Zealand, Australia, and in Israel. His family and lawyers had said in his defense that the teen suffered from a brain tumor and was mentally unfit, but Tel Aviv court judge Tzvi Gerfinkel rejected those claims today, saying the teenager knew the difference between right and wrong and understood that his actions had consequences. Earlier this year, the teen was indicted by the U.S. Department of Justice for hate crimes. Dozens of Jewish headstones were saved from being permanently covered up under a city street in Ukraine. Director of the Volunteer Center of the Western City of Lviv, Sasha Nazar, said he found out last week that city workers had begun work on a stretch of road that was full of Jewish headstones, which had been covered by the road's surface. Volunteers were quickly organized to work at the site this week and rescue the stones from becoming a permanent part of the street, calling the project the Road of Memory. The headstones will be taken to a Jewish cemetery in the area. During the Holocaust, Jewish cemeteries were demolished and used as quarries to pave roads and in other construction. A delegation of the World Jewish Congress is in Israel this week. Top Jewish executives from some 60 countries around the world visited IDF soldiers serving in the Israeli Navy, as well as with residents of a kibbutz situated near the Gaza border, and expressed their support.
Best wishes and blessings from the United States of America. We love you. You have our back. We are behind you always. God bless you and thank you.
The group includes representatives from the U.S., Australia, Cuba, and Belarus, among many others, part of the World Jewish Congress's annual National Community Directors Forum. And taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Thursday, June the 28th at 7 o'clock, it's Talmud Study with Rabbi Mordechai Becker. At 8 o'clock, young Jewish leaders in Europe talk about the challenges they face from the AJC Global Forum. At 9, Mark Golub sits down with Charles Cohen, who talks about his new documentary on the rise of anti-Semitism in France, Spiral. At 10, peace activist and author Muhammad Al-Samawi talks about his struggles with AJC board member Daniel Pincus from the AJC Westchester Fairfield event at Shaarei Tikva in Scarsdale, New York. And coming up right after this newscast tonight at 6:30, it's the Debka File. And that's the JBS News Update for Thursday, June the 28th, 2018. I'm Tisha Bader.